Hi guys, it is Tamara. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the shaping experience of the coronavirus. And I want to point out a couple of ways that we have all been shaped by this. We are all going through it together. It's not an easy experience by any means. And I think we're all kind of going through an emotional and psychological change on an hourly basis, not even a daily basis. You know, we have to adjust our view and our perspective and our emotions almost every hour of the day. So I want to talk about how this experience is going to affect all of us in the long term. So thank you so much for coming back to my channel. For those who are subscribed and for those who are new, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button so you can stick around with us and become a part of our growing community. The benefits for you in today's video is that I'm going to highlight a couple of shaping experiences that we are all likely to go through in regards to the coronavirus. So, you know, I don't even know how to begin this video, because I think a lot of us kind of took the nonchalant, minimized view. Oh, everything's going to be okay, right? It's not as bad as the flu. More people die from the flu than they do corona, right? Or, this is not the apocalypse. This is not the last days. So why do we need to go through this, is what one of my clients said to me. And I think, that's a little bit of denial, but it's also a little bit of a fear of having to adjust life and having to adjust the way that we perceive things just to survive and to cope. And so I think, minimizing it at the very beginning and becoming nonchalant seemed logical. And even for myself, I had to try to comfort my clients and comfort my family and comfort myself because I was really sick. And I'm still struggling with a bug I can't get rid of, it's a daily adjustment, an hourly adjustment of all of your thoughts and your feelings. So I think it was survival mode that we were all kind of in at the beginning, and some in denial because it's just a lot easier to deal with it that way, So I think it's important for us to keep proper perspective. And while we're keeping proper perspective, also being aware of the various ways that, we're going to be asked to change and adjust our lives. So I think it was Monday. Yeah, it was Monday. On Sunday, I talked about shaping experiences. And so in this video, I want to talk a little bit more about that, but I want to focus it on the coronavirus. All right, so let's just go ahead and start with that, okay? The number one way that I think that, the coronavirus is going to shape us and change us is by targeting how we see life and our mood. When we start to perceive life in a certain way, we begin to feel a certain way in response to how we're perceiving it, right? So cognitive behavior therapy, which is what I talked about a couple weeks ago as a trauma technique, is basically the idea that whatever you think has a way of changing your perception. And when your perception is changed, so are your emotions. And so if we're perceiving this to be the end of the world, if we're perceiving this to be more emotionally draining and exhausting than it actually is, then we begin to feel a certain way. And so depression and anxiety are two things, I should say, that are likely to happen. All right. So you're likely to see yourself being shaped by this experience in such a way that you're going to have trouble sleeping possibly, or you're sleeping too much. Your appetite is going to change. You're either going to eat too much or not eat enough. You're probably going to have some moments of feeling afraid and anxious, heightened tension. You're going to feel your body tense up, right? You're probably going to be experiencing fight or flight mode when you probably shouldn't be, right? But your body is going to kick into that fight or flight mode, that gas pedal brake system I always talk about. I'm going to post the video in the description box so you can go back and learn a little bit more about that. But your body is probably going to kick into fight or flight mode, okay? The other thing is you might begin to have suicidal thoughts, right? Let's think about it for a second. So let's say your job is in jeopardy, or your health is in jeopardy, right? Or you have a loved one who's highly susceptible to corona because they're diabetic, right? Or they have some kind of a heart condition, or they have some kind of a infectious disease, right? So this can really make them vulnerable to catching the disease and the virus, right? So Corona really targets the older generation, and it has, an impact on them in a very different way than it does younger people. So that's frightening in and of itself, right? So you've got health in your family that's concerning. You may have financial concerns. You may have financial obligations that you can't see through to the end. You might have educational obligations that you can't see through to the end. all of those things can lead to suicidal ideation. Now, if you have a history of self-harm or cutting or engaging in risky behaviors, you're likely to go back to that as well, right? It's a place of comfort. It's a place that you're used to going. So you're likely to go back to that, okay? And again, you're going to have appetite disturbance, and you're going to have sleep disturbance, and you're probably going to have mood fluctuations and all kind of disturbances that you thought you were over, right? But all of the tension that we are now facing and the possibility of all of this lasting for the next 18 months is really hard to wrap your mind around, and so you're likely to experience depression. So this experience may be shaping you to begin to exhibit signs of depression, okay? The next thing I have on my list here is reduced socialization and emotional discomfort, okay? What I mean by that is you're not going to have the ability to connect and socialize and communicate with other people. So you're going to be isolated. You're going to withdraw. You most likely are going to have to use FaceTime or teletherapy or telemedicine to do mostly anything. And people who are working remotely have to kind of isolate as well from their colleagues. So daily life is going to feel different. It's going to look different. And you may find yourself feeling like you are too isolated or too withdrawn, right? Some people need social interaction, especially extroverts, right? So when they don't have that, or when you don't have that, you may find your mood drop. You may find yourself feel really helpless and emotionally imbalanced. Life just doesn't feel the same to you. So that's likely to happen as well. And emotional disturbance can occur when you begin to feel sad and you begin to feel anxious. Then there's your emotional disturbance right there. You're not balanced like you usually are. The next thing is triggered OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. There are lots of people who are afraid that they're going to catch whatever this coronavirus is. They wear masks, they wear gloves. I saw somebody the other day dressed in a full bodysuit, right? They're afraid to touch anything. They're afraid to breathe. They're afraid to shake your hand. They're afraid to touch a doorknob. They're afraid to breathe in the air, OCD is basically a combination of two complicated symptoms, and that's obsessions and compulsions and ritualistic compulsions. So you feel the need to do something over and over and over again to reduce that anxiety that the obsessions cause. Can you imagine what somebody with OCD is going through in today? So you're probably going to see some triggered OCD, right? This experience is shaping the individual to struggle with obsessions and compulsions, okay? Heightened fears or PTSD symptoms, okay? There are a lot of people who have a history of being a part of communist societies and countries. There are veterans that have dealt with really traumatic situations. There are domestic violence survivors. There's other traumatic situations, that people have dealt with. And this whole scare can trigger those things to come back up again, right? We are kind of shutting down in this nation and, hiding away in our homes. Can you imagine what veterans are going through who have been in other countries where that's been the case? Can you imagine what veterans are going through and what people who have lived through the concentration camps are going through, right? There's still some of that generation alive. Can you imagine where their mind is taking them to, being a part of all of this and going through grocery stores and seeing the shelves empty? Those are all shaping experiences. It's shaping you to feel a certain way about life, right? Strained family communication, family dynamics that have already been negative, right, and emotionally unstable can return to that, right? It can be very detrimental to your emotional and psychological health to just be in close proximity with your family, right? Especially if you guys are toxic, especially if you guys are not communicating clearly or can't get along, right? The other part of that is you're around your family more often, so you're probably going to clash and have arguments a little bit more than, you'd like. So that's another shaping adjustment that you're going to have to make. Something else I have on here is a traumatic change in socioeconomic status, right? So you don't have the money to pay for your bills. You don't have the money to buy the things that you're used to buying. You don't have the money to go shopping like you used to. You don't have the money to stock up on items or to pay for your obligations, I'm trying to say. So there's a lot to really think about when it comes to this corona thing. And these experiences shape you, they shape you into who you're going to be when this is all over. So, you can basically anticipate that all of this is going to lead to heightened anxiety, that all of this is going to lead to PTSD symptoms, that all of this is most likely going to lead to children being afraid, people with OCD struggling a little bit more. It's an adjustment. Is it a terrible thing that's occurring? I think sometimes it's exaggerated, But what is terrible in my mind, you know, and the way that I see it, is how limited we are becoming, right? We are locking ourselves away. We are isolating and withdrawing. What's next, right? Are we not going to have a summer for our kids? Are we not going to be able to go grocery shopping anymore? Is there going to be a curfew set in place for us as citizens? I mean, this can get really ugly. So all of these things are traumatic, and they are shaping experiences, and it's really something for us to live through. It's hard to wrap your mind around. Let me know how you feel about all of this in the comment section below. Share with me how you've been adjusting to all of this. What do you think? Do you think it's as big as society is making it and the media, or do you think it's not as bad? Do you think that, you know, we have some political leadership who is kind of pushing this ideology and making us more fearful than we need to be? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for being with me in this video today, guys. Please give it a thumbs up and share it if it was helpful to you, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're new so you can stick around with us. I'll see you guys in the next few days, because I'm going to be talking about ways to survive and cope with all of this craziness. All right, thank you so much.